Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 37 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and warm confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. This episode is going to be a different episode. It's going to be my NFL deep dive series that I've started about a week or so ago. I told you guys I'm going to take a topic or a specific thing and more or less just kind of like do a rundown or a deep dive on what the particular topic is. Could be a defense, an offense, a certain team, a certain down and distance, whatever it may be that could give you some, I don't want to say cause for pause for lack of better words, but have questions that you may not be able to answer right away. That even if you Google it, it's still kind of like, what the fuck is he talking about or watching? Now I will highlight to you that this video will be edited at a later point and there will be visual clips of the actual defense added. However, this video version is also going to be the audio podcast version too. That's going to be run on Apple Podcasts. So bear in mind, please, I apologize, my Apple Podcast subscribers, that you don't see obviously the visuals of this. But for my YouTube subscribers and people on X and other websites, you will see the video footage at a later point of the actual defense and how it's installed and how it runs. I'm just going to give you basically today the verbal rundown of how it's ran and how I expect the Eagles defense to look and what we should expect going into the 2024 season. That being said, let's dive right into it. Number one question most people ask is, what type of defense is Vic Fangio running? Vic Fangio is running a 3-4 defense. Defense that Vic Fangio has ran for years. He's not the father of the defense. He's kind of like the great grandson who's adopted it and made it, his own with his own little twists and wrinkles to it. But nonetheless, per ESPN's Aaron Schatz, the defense will be transitioning from a 4-3 to a 3-4, as I explained to you. This episode is just more or less breaking down the 3-4 defense, and it will explore the 2-4-5 nickel defense, which is also an alternate package that Vic Fangio runs, that the Eagles will be running as well. And they've been practicing this, and it will explain its primary functions to you, plus the strengths and weaknesses of the defense. Now, I want to highlight to you, because I want to make sure everybody gets their credit. Some of this news comes from a Bleacher Report article from all the way back in 2011. Yes, I know 2011 seems like fucking ancient history. My how time flies. But and I've also sourced some of this information too from Pro Football Reference. I want to give them their credit too. But nonetheless, this defense, the 3-4 defense, started actually way back in 1973, and it was started from by the Patriots coach, Coach Chuck Fairbanks. And if anybody who's a football historian or knows anything about the game, Coach Chuck Fairbanks was a former coach at the University of Oklahoma. In 1973, he became the Patriots head coach. So he had his defense in college and then transitioned it to the NFL. He's essentially the godfather of the defense, the architect, for lack of better words. Basically, the essential function of a 3-4 defense, it consists of 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers. In football circles, it is called a base defense. It is a 2-gap system, meaning A's, B gaps. It is a 2-gap system. Players must stay to their assignment, meaning defensive tackles that you should traditionally see down in front of the offensive lineman. They can't deviate and get up and move and try to move into a blitz package or move into a different coverage package. They have to stay on their man and stay to their gaps. And for the defense to work in its purest form, that's how it has to work. The assignments for a 3-4 defensive player. Now, we're going to start with defensive ends because this is typically the one that is very easy to get confused. Again, the illustrations will be posted, edited later at a later point, but I want to make sure that I stress emphasis. The defensive ends and the outside linebackers have totally different responsibilities in a 3-4 defense. Let me explain. Defensive ends play what we call the 5 technique, which means that they are head up, staring at the defensive line, staring at the offensive line, or in front of the offensive tackle. Defensive ends must watch the B and C gaps, which are typically between the guards and the tackles. The end's responsibility is to essentially defend the run and then defend the pass. So, hence, this is why Hassan Reddick is no longer a Philadelphia Eagle. in that defense, the defensive ends have to be able to not only defend the pass, but defend the run. Now, we know Hassan Reddick is great against the pass as far as rushing the quarterback. As far as defending the pass, not really his strong suit. Not knocking the dude because I love Hassan Reddick, but this just highlights one of the things so that way you can get a visual of who plays that position and why that guy might not be here anymore. That being said, defensive ends cannot lose contain by rushing the quarterback. If defensive ends lose contain, meaning they leave their lineman or they leave the guy that they're supposed to be in front of and they break contain, that's where you see those quarterbacks and those running backs sometimes break off those long runs on the edge because sometimes the defensive end overshoots his man by coming too far out, creates a lane for the running back or the lineman, and boom, up the gap they go. Nose tackles, another great position within this defense. This is essentially the foundation of the 3-4 defense. The nose tackle is the plug. His job is essentially to plug the middle of the defense. A great nose tackle commands double teams, which opens up the A gap, which allows a linebacker the ability to get to the backfield. So essentially, get the visual. Nose tackle on the center. Attacks his man by creating that space that allows the linebacker to be able to shoot through straight to the quarterback. With that also being said, the bigger they are, the better. Looking at their defensive tackles, you have Jordan Davis, you have PJ Mustapher, you also have Marion Tuipulotu. Pardon me, brother, if I butchered his name. But nonetheless, you could get the idea, big defensive lineman. I mean, Jordan Davis is 3 is of change, 320 is of change. I mean, that just gives you an idea of what type of defensive lineman, nose tackles you need to block those gaps. Again, it seems like they have the type of personnel to run this defense if you're kind of following along, getting an idea of what I'm saying. Outside linebacker. The primary job is to rush the quarterback. They must be strong enough so no one can beat them outside in the run game. Again, defensive end, outside linebacker. This is why it's very easy to misconceive and misconstrue their jobs or their roles, because essentially their roles are similar but different. The outside linebacker is just rushing. He's rushing the quarterback. But he has to make sure that if he sees that the quarterback got the ball out quickly, or if he sees a screenplay developing, or he sees a delay, he has to be cognizant and make sure that he doesn't over pursue, because then that opens up another lane for the offensive player, quarterback, running back, receiver, whomever, to get upfield, and then all hell breaks loose. Essentially, they call the term, for all my football heads out there, football aficionados, setting the edge. Speed, flexibility, strong hands is going to be needed. Looking at the guys that we have currently at this position, Zach Bowen, Jalix Hunt, at Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Julian Okora, who also has been turning heads at camp so far. So if you notice, guys that are 6'3" and up, guys that are between 235, 255, guys that have power, some athleticism, some speed, but they can more importantly rush the passer and play some coverage. Very, very interesting. And you can tell Vic Fangio definitely had a say-so in how the defense was addressed, which he alluded to in his press conference early this offseason. And you can also see that the type of guys they went after, they wanted to make sure they had the right mold. This is, like I said, these roles are all pivotal. We're expecting a lot out of Nolan Smith this year. We're expecting a lot out of Bryce Huff. Obviously, with Reddick being gone, he's getting the $51 million. We're expecting a lot out of him. Josh Sweat, he's playing for his dinner last year of his deal. Brandon Graham, last year, he's going to play football. He's retiring after this year. And Okara is pretty much playing for a contract. So, and, Zach Bourne and Jalix Hunt, Jalix Hunt's a third-round pick. Zach Bourne's on a one-year deal. So it's going to be very interesting to see who develops fast and quick in a hurry out of this group. Next, we're going to go into inside linebackers. Their primary job is just to tackle. Teams usually prefer this guy to be the leader of the defense and the main guy you want to run free to the football. This is the Ray Lewises of the world. This is, you know, the guys of that nature and that mold. You want those guys running the defense, leading the charge, running free, and just causing all types of fucking mayhem and getting to the rusher and getting to the quarterback and just getting the tackles that's needed to snuff out the offense's chance at moving the ball forward. Typically, the inside linebacker is a big player who is more than capable of fighting through traffic. So typically in his defense, if you remember with Vic Fangio when he ran his defense at Denver and some of his other iterations in the NFL, always had, you know, decent sized linebackers, which is interesting because if you look at the linebackers that we have on the team this year, Trotter's, you know, not gigantic, N'Kobe Dean's small, Devin White's not gigantic, and special teams and backup player Oren Burks, you know, some size but not gigantic. So it's very interesting. I think he's more or less just, you know, predicating these guys on being tacklers, which I think kind of lends you susceptible to certain pass coverages. But again, you know, we'll see. But it's going to be a big year for N'Kobe Dean because the fact that he's not really getting a ton of reps right now in practice, and you've been seeing a lot more Zach Bourne, and we've been seeing a lot more flashes of Devin White, and you know, it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out with that inside linebacker position, how they do it in the different coverages. And last but not least is the secondary. And the secondary, the hardest job on the field, but essentially the easiest. Their job is regardless, you know, doesn't matter if it's 4-3 or 3-4, their job is the same. Stop the pass. That's all the corner has to do. Coverages are universal, again, whether 4-3 or 3-4. The only thing that's different is how each team runs their variation of coverages. They might run, like I said, a 2-4-5 nickel. Where, you know, you got guys roaming all over the field. You can have a corner playing nickel. These are things that you've seen that the Eagles have been practicing, that I've highlighted. You've seen some of the reporters talk about all offseason, where you've had plays where Quinyon Mitchell's in the middle of the field and Cooper DeJean is playing nickel, and then you got Slay on the outside, Ringo on the other side, and, you know, the safeties roaming. So it gets very intricate. Nothing too exotic, but very exotic as far as how you can disguise the fronts and disguise your coverages. Nothing that teams haven't seen before, but we've seen with Vic Fangio throughout his career. If he has the right type of players, the results follow. And that will be it for my episode on the NFL Deep Dive discussing the Eagles 3-4 defense and the implementation, the roles. I thank you guys for always watching. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you. Take care. And you guys have a great day.